is the question subsets. Subsets is a question regarding backtracking that is one of the fundamentals of backtracking. It is pretty good questions if you want to learn about backtracking, because it kind of dwells into a functions and DFS inside, and then you backtrack it. So without ado, I will try to run the code and explain as I go. The case of backtracking is always you require helper functions, and you can think of helper functions like a DFS, like what you usually do, like traversing through a grid. Now, in this case, I'm gonna use these helper functions and keep calling itself again. So basically, a recursive functions. Well, obviously, I will need the parameters. I need nums because I need to keep on going, correct? Well, let's see. Let's see the question asks, what do I need to keep on going? The question is asked, okay, how many unique elements can I create? Well, if I recursively call it, so let's say if I recursively call these functions, the first thing I do, okay, it needs the output say, okay, an empty elements of array will count as a subset as well. So obviously I need to push something inside here. Well, backtracking, there's always a template for it. You usually use a public, basically a global variable to make things simpler. You can even include it here, but just to make things simpler, you can make it. So a nested vector to return for this case. So okay, an empty subset count as a proper answer as well. Okay, I am going to push in my temp. So if I call it right now, I'm going to call it, and my answer, return answer, I will get an empty temp, and my answer will I will get this empty vector, which solved my first problem. Which I get the first output. Okay, once I had that, let me think again. I need to iterate through these nums. Okay. I need to iterate these nums. I need to push in these nums into my temp. Okay, once I push the nums, what should I do? Once I push this to the nums, if think about it, I push the nums, I needed to immediately run to here and push back. Okay, I know what to do. I can call it again, so that when I call it, it will help me push it, right? Because when I call these helper functions, it will go down a tree and start from here again, 10. Okay, so if I go 1, 2, 3, so technically I will have, if I run this code right now, well, memory exceeded because it did not return anything. Well, because it keep on pushing and pushing, so it keep on pushing and pushing. So that means, okay, I push in 1, 2, 3. No, sorry. I will push on 1, 1, 1. Then the nums 1 at index 0. Okay, let me think. When can I reach this return? Okay, I can reach this return when my index increment. So I probably need the parameters of index parent. So another case of backtracking prefix and postfix is pretty important here, is that, okay, if I put plus plus, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna call these functions, and then I'm going to plus plus the index. So if my index is 0, let's say I have nums and I have index 0, and I call plus plus, I'm gonna pass in nums, but with index 0. but what I need to do is I want to plus increment 1 just for the next function to call it. So I can't use plus plus because it's prefix. What I can do is index immediately plus equal to 1. Okay, now instead of returning plus equal to 1, I push in 1. So it's gonna go 1, it's gonna go 2, it's gonna go, my temp will be 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I still need to return it. Okay, so my temp is gonna keep on push my answer is going to, sorry, my temp start from index 0, and then it's gonna call 1, and then it's gonna go here, right? But then immediately it's gonna push 1 here. So it's gonna increase, it's gonna keep on increasing. So what I need to do, I need to know how to pop back. So if I pop it back, so when will it pop back actually? So if you think about it, if it's index 3, what's gonna happen? So if it's index 3, that means this entire function is done. Because if it's index 3, oh, one mistake I did. I need to put an integer index. Okay. So let's use a whiteboard to make these things more simple. Here. Just bear with me for 1 second. If you understand this once and for all, this will help a lot by backtracking functions. So I have helper functions. Okay. The first thing I do, I call it. I'm gonna pass it the index 0. So this is coming from the main functions, and then this is going down. Okay. Now the first thing I do is I push in at the first helper function. I'll call it h1. It's going to push in on my temp. It's going to push in an empty vector for my answer. Okay, fine. So my answer will have ans. And notice that I'm start from my index is 0 here. Right. And then inside these functions, I am still going to push back. Once I push back here, at least at the same function, at h1, it is still going to, my temp is going to push back now my the first index, which is number 1. Index 0, and the number is 1. Okay, so I'm going to call it again with h2. This time my index is 1, and it's gonna push back temp, which is it's gonna take the temp and push back 1, and then it is going to come inside this for loop. So the for loop is not gonna start from 0, it starts from index plus 1, from the previous from 0 to 1. Okay, so now it is going to push number 2. So when you push number 2, okay, let's go down to h3. You push number 2, it calls again, and then you go number 2. Right? So now I am at here. I am going to push. I asked the code to help me push to the push temp into my answer. I have 1, 2, and then go inside the for loop again. I asked my code to say, okay, push back index number 3, which is 1, 2, 3. Okay, plus equal to 1. Okay, now at the for functions at this side, plus equal to 1. What does it mean? So my index is, I have reached the end of my nums, my array, right? But I still increment it. When I still increment it, I am going to call that. So I am going to increment, I'm going to h4, right? I'm going to h4 with the index 3, which exceeds my for loop num.size. My num.size is only 3. So it's going to still push in 1, 2, 3, but it's not going to enter the for loop, correct? So okay, it's not going to enter the for loop. So now the backtracking magic works. It immediately goes to return. you can ignore line 14 to line 18. It's going to return. When you return, where do I return to? Right? It return here because I stop it here. I call it here. Remember? I keep on going deeper and doing deeper using my helper function, which is H1, H2, H3. It's going to pop back. Now my temp is going to pop back. If I go back to H3, this is not finished yet, right? I'm in line 19 now. So my temp is going to pop back here. It's going to pop back to temp, the global variable 1, 2. So I have 1, 2. Okay. I pop it back. Now what's the next thing I need to do? The code is going to do, what it's going to do is it's going to return. Okay, I'm at index 2 here. My for loop is done. I pop it back. My for loop is done. I'm going back here. Okay. Now my index is at this point, at this memory address, at this stack function, the index is 1. I am at line 19 now. I am going to pop back again. But remember, at this point, my index is 1. It is a for loop. This is going, and then what does it happen now? It is going to increment to 2, right? Because it's a for loop. Imagine now at H2, your index is 1, and my nums.size is 3. Once you pop it back, you are going to increment the second one. So this is not finished. This H2 is not finished. It has still a for loop to run. Okay, the H2 say, okay, increase my index by equal to 1. I pop it back. I run the for loop again. So I pop it to what index 2. The H2 technically will go back to, will create a new functions basically. And it's gonna, let's call it H5. I'm gonna pass in the index 2, and my temp will be 1, 1, 3. So if I run this one, I get correct. So if you notice why I get 1, 3 here. Well, at 1, 3, I have reached the end of my for loop. I pop it out, and then I push it back. I pop it out at 1, pop it out, and then I push it back in. So this is a backtracking solution that if you understand it once, I hope my answer gives you guys a good understanding. It kind of fucks me up a little bit before, but I hope it helps a little bit. Thank you.